Well, hello and good morning. Welcome to another Sunday Coffee with Dr. Childress here. Today I'm going to be discussing talking to your AI. I'm not going to do it today, but I'm working on a project basically with Claude where we'll be talking to your AI as parents. And so today on this Sunday, I just wanted to tell you what Claude and I are working on. I think it's pretty exciting. Um, so the fundamental feature, before I get into what we're working on specifically, is that parents in the family courts need help, need support in navigating the broken mental health system and the dysfunctional legal system and the interface of the two. And they're being financially exploited, and it's institutional betrayal and all sorts of and psychological abuse, spousal abuse, and all sorts of difficult situations. And so I've been uh, considering how to get support out to parents. I've been using Facebook and blogs and YouTube and various things, but AI is here, and I'm incorporating AI into my practice on document review. And I'm really liking what it's being able to do in terms of bringing clarity to the chaos. And so I was pondering how to uh, get that support to you, get your AI to be able to support you in this situation. At first, I thought about just talking to an AI on YouTube, having you parents upload the transcript and give it to your AI to help you navigate the situation. But then, as Claude and I were talking about it, I go, Claude, actually, you AI do a little better with more precision. And so I think you and I could just develop a PDF that, that tells their AI what's going on and what needs to happen. And Claude thought that was an excellent idea, very innovative, and I agree, it's very innovative because AI is just now here. So that's what we're working on, and we'll be hopefully finishing that up today. Because work with AI is so fast. Once we get everything aligned, it just goes and does what it does. And I'm reading what we're developing, and it's very good. I like what Claude's doing with it. So I'm going to be posting the individual sections over to my Substack. So you will have all the individual components over on my Substack just for documentation purposes for my sake, that everybody can get at all the explanations of everything going on. But also it'll be a PDF on my website, my consulting website, that parents can just upload to their AI and take it from there. So, so let's talk about what I intend to do with Claude here. Um, what we're going through is giving Claude information about each one of these content domains, and then on a set of action domains. And I'm describing things to Claude, and then Claude's putting it into a language that both the parents can understand when they read it, but also that will help orient their AI to the situation. So this first set of context framing sections will orient your AI to the nature of the family court situation. And so I'm going to start with institutional betrayal trauma, because that's what we have. And you're in a traumatized brain. And so I'll explain the whole situation about the institutional betrayal to your AI. And then the next most important aspect is that you, the parent that the AI is talking to, you're a spousal abuse victim in a traumatized brain. Now, let me talk about that for a second. Because you parents have both institutional betrayal trauma, as well as a spousal abuse trauma, as well as traumatic grief from the law. There's three traumas I've got on your brain already, and that's bad toxic brain chemicals and But the other thing that trauma does is it shuts down some of the executive functions for planning ahead and stuff. People become very now reactive in situations, and we need to. And anxiety is very captivating, excuse me, very disorganizing, um, and very contagious. And so everybody's anxiety is really high. We need to bring that anxiety down so that we can get the planning and organization features coming back with the parents. And so I'll describe that to Claude. I describe it to Claude, and then Claude will describe it to your AI. If you use Claude, then Claude's describing it to himself. Otherwise, it's the Chat GPT or Gemini or whoever you want to use, Grok. The So you're in a traumatized brain. I'll explain that. Then problems with forensic custody evaluation system. That's important for the AI to understand, is because you're going to get diverted into the forensic custody evaluators and the whole psychological ecosystem that's currently in the family courts. And so your AI needs to understand what's going on so it can orient you and get you through the proper places in the mental health and legal system, and you advocating with your attorney to be able to navigate that. Then path A, path B, differential diagnosis. That's your classic differential diagnosis. Path A is that the targeted parent is abusing the child in some way, causing the child to want to escape and flee from that parent. Path B is that it's the allied parent who's psychologically abusing the child by creating the delusional disorder and factitious attachment pathology. So that's what we're looking at, is a path A, path B differential diagnosis. Explain it to your AI, and then your AI can understand what's needed in this situation relative to the mental health assessment, diagnosis, and treatment. Then I want to give your AI a little bit of background information on attachment, family systems, and psychological control dynamics, as well as the ethical violations in the family courts. And it's a cascade of violations. 2.01, they don't know the knowledge. 2.04 is that they don't apply the knowledge. 9.01 is their violation of bases of assessment, because if they don't know the necessary knowledge and don't apply the necessary knowledge, then their recommendations and reports and things are wrong. They're not based on sufficient information. And then that leads to the 3.04 avoiding harm violation, which is the misdiagnosis of the child abuse. So that will be the first thing I'll do, that Claude and I are working on, is orienting your AI to the situation. Now, what can your AI do about that? What's the consulting role of your AI? And I told Claude, I don't want your AI believing there's a solution, because there isn't. That goes back to the institutional betrayal trauma. That in this situation, it's not like you can just do X, Y, Z and everything's going to be okay, because the mental health people are extremely bad. Anytime the parent has to explain the pathology to the doctor, that's extremely bad. And so that's the situation. And your AI, we're going to have to orient that to how do we explain the pathology to the professionals and get the proper mental health services of diagnosis and treatment. So the next phase of the instructions to your AI will involve the action sections. So the first thing we'll discuss is explaining the pathology to the attorneys and mental health professionals. So that's where your AI can help explain the pathology, help you write your emails, help you advocate with the mental health professionals and with your own attorney and your legal team on getting them to get the proper legal support. Then obtaining zealous advocacy from the legal counsel. And that's important. Your legal counsel has been lulled to sleep by the failure of the mental health people, that this is child abuse and this is spousal abuse and this is, the spousal abuse of you, their client, and the abuse of your child. And what currently happens is the pathological parent gets a zealous advocate that fights tooth and nail to delay things and undermine things and keep the pathology going, which is questionable legal practice to maintain a child's child abuse by your client parent. But we'll talk about that in some other context. Maybe I'll talk about it with your AI. Your AI will know exactly what the problem is with opposing counsel and minors counsel, and when there's arguing for the continuation of the child abuse. But but they get the zealous advocate, your narcissistic borderline X. You get a litigator that's trying to seek agreements because they're not getting the mental health diagnosis of child abuse out of the mental health people. If they got that diagnosis, they could be much more active on your behalf, protecting you and protecting the child. But the mental health system is failing your attorney and you by withholding that diagnosis, and that puts their finger on the scale in favor of the pathological parent, of keeping the pathology hidden. And so that's a questionable legal practice. I'll tell your AI about it. But we need your attorney to be a zealous advocate, to be fighting for child abuse, for protection of the child from child abuse, and protection of you, their client, from spousal abuse using the child as a weapon. So I'll talk with your AI about how to help you advocate with your own legal counsel. Then obtaining treatment progress reports from therapists and when to request treatment notes. So I'll talk with your AI about how to, with the current mental health involvement, how to get documentation from them and how to move into advocacy relative to getting the appropriate mental health services, diagnosis, and treatment. And then if you need to get notes, you can get their treatment notes. Now, one of the things I'm doing in my practice is I'm submitting these reports, the treatment progress report or the treatment notes or their forensic custody evaluations or depositions and declarations and all these court-involved documents. I'm submitting them over to an AI that I work with, the Gemini, and we have a protocol, and we go through and look at that, and it's really useful. So generating these treatment notes and treatment plans and reports and documents would be very helpful to you, because then we can get an AI analysis of what's going on relative to the symptoms and begin to correct the diagnostic and treatment situation. Then how to work with GALs and minors counsels. So when you get these stray people put onto your case, how do you deal with them? Now, my opinion on both minors counsel and GALs, their role is not to make the diagnosis. They're not competent in making diagnoses of delusional disorder, okay, or factitious disorder imposed on another. Those are psychiatric disorders. And it's either one or both of those is child psychological abuse. So they're not competent in making that diagnosis. Their obligation as a guardian and as the legal counsel for their client child is to ensure that that accurate diagnosis is made and an effective treatment plan is implemented. That's their job, is to get that accurate diagnosis. And so we'll talk about that, and I'll explain that to your AI so your AI can help navigate them. Then documenting verbal conversations with letters of confirmation. That's a useful advocacy skill. If you have a verbal conversation with somebody, you then follow up with an email that says, to confirm our conversation, and then you report what you talked about. That gives them the opportunity to correct the record in which case they've documented the conversation, or it stands as documentation. And then you response to intervention trials. Those are interesting. They're treatment oriented. So as you begin to get into treatment and you encounter the treatment providers, that's something your AI can help you navigate in explaining to them. Treatment plans and outcome measures. So you're going to be contacting and involved with the mental health system. So when you get involved with the mental health system, what should that look like? And so that's where I'll talk with your AI about what the treatment plan should look like, and the importance of outcome measures. We need to get outcome measures on this so we know whether treatment's working or not, and how to look at that. So I'll help your AI understand that. And then the last section I'll talk about with your AI is emotional support through witness and structure. So an AI is not a therapist, okay? Although it's pretty good at helping out with things, but primarily its advantage in that is a concept called witness. That it feels really good to be seen, especially with a delusional disorder and the false reality and the inverted systems and betrayal trauma. Just to have your reality validated as real kind of feels good. And it is real. So that component, that when parents are stressed and they're worried about things, just sit with them, AI, just say, yeah, it's a real situation that you're looking at. And when you're ready, we can start putting the pieces together and something like that. Now, if they need therapy, yeah, parents, you're in a traumatized brain. This is trauma, severe trauma. It's institutional betrayal trauma. It's spousal abuse trauma. It's traumatic grief. And so we got lots of bad chemicals toxic chemicals in your brain. So if you want to get a therapist, I recommend that, trauma therapist. And if you want to get your therapist, and I on a little Doxy.me where we can all consult, that's fine with me too. You can upload this to your therapist, for the trauma therapist, to help you deal with all of this and figure out what's going on and deal with the stresses. Upload the AI consultation to your own therapist, to do that. So I'll explain all that to your AI. Then once I get this done, potentially a next project I will do is explaining treatment, explaining what the diagnosis and treatment, but the treatment component is to your AI, but not to yours so much, but to the therapist's AI. So if Claude and I worked up a mental health, Dr. Childress talks to the therapist's AI, then you could just give that to the therapist. They could upload it to an AI, and the AI could explain the situation to them. And they could talk with the AI about the situation. Give them this one. And so that's what my focus is currently, is getting you educated AI with proper guidance to the situation, so that you don't have just these wild off-the-shelf AI kind of going off in different directions. But if you give them guidance and you give them a little training and a little education about where they are, they do very well, especially Claude. I like Claude. He's got kind of a memory that keeps him oriented to the situation. So with that, I'm going to head off to my Sunday here. A lot of projects to do. And so good luck, everybody, and take care. It's a difficult situation for you out there. All right. Bye-bye.